Hello and welcome back to the PlotCast. My name's Chris Sambrook.
And I'm Nate Slater, and today we're going to discuss the Dragon Ball franchise. And does it need a reboot? Well, that's what we're here to discuss. So, Chris, I have an issue with Dragon Ball, and that's why we are here today.
Dragon
And
Ball as in the franchise as opposed to
yes,
just the
yes,
individual show.
we've known each other for a long time. We've loved Dragon Ball for a long time. More recently, Dragon Ball has had a resurgence in pop culture with Daima, Super, a couple little spin-offs here and there in the manga verse, and even video games like Xenoverse and stuff like that, expanding the lore. But that goes with my issue with it. It's expanded it so much, it's almost had to retcon a lot of stuff
Right.
from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z to where it almost feels like it's not cohesive anymore. And to me, it's been
Oh,
bugging me.
there's been tons of plot holes and inconsistencies, retcons throughout the entire series.
Yeah. Even before Super or Daima.
Yeah,
And
they only now it just becomes even more complex because sometimes it's like, oh, we've evolved away from something, and now, hey, we're going back to that something. So there's inconsistencies everywhere.
we've discussed this before personally. Toriyama is very good at forgetting. Unfortunately, he passed away, so everything is in the hands of Toyotaro continuing the Super manga. And it just feels like it's gotten away from itself in the fact that, like I said, Akira Toriyama, forgetful. Nobody really there to kind of put him back. Like, hey, you said this before. It's just him kind of
Right.
probably trying to meet deadlines and not really worrying about it as much as the fans do because it's different when you're the creator than you are the fan. Unless you are the creator and you're a big fan of your own stuff. Toriyama had a lot of other stuff he worked on, but most famous was the Dragon Ball franchise. And sometimes it kind of sucks thinking that he didn't dedicate all his time to the franchise to try and keep things more consistent. All that aside, I was thinking the other day how much I miss Dragon Ball and, you know, thinking about the earlier stuff, and it really came down to wanting to go back and rewatch the original Dragon Ball. And the thing that irks me about that, they haven't done anything with it. Like you can't get it on Blu-ray. Yeah, you can watch it on streaming, but they haven't
Right.
done like a more
And
updated kind
Kai.
of not even necessarily Kai, although I think that'd be good, but I don't know how much the Dragon Ball actual anime followed the manga to a T because we know Dragon Ball Z Kai was created to kind of make it more narratively aligned with the manga,
Right.
deleting a lot of the filler, almost all of it, and but also
There was tons of
fixing
filler just in general.
yeah,
Whether you're
fixing
following the manga or not, there was just so many episodes of just screaming for no reason.
But the thing is with Kai, they also went back and kind of fixed a lot of the animation that was messed up originally in Z, the inconsistencies
Right.
with that. When they're on Namek, Krillin's supposed to be wearing armor, and then one shot you see him wearing his gi, and then he's back to wearing the armor. They've gone back and kind of fixed some of those inconsistencies with Kai. But my issue is there's so many other inconsistencies throughout the normal Dragon Ball Z, even Dragon Ball movies, and all the way up to now. It's not the same anymore. It feels like it's almost a shadow of its own self with the fact that we now have Super Saiyan 4 as canon. GT, for a small time when it came out, people considered that canon, but it just kind of was poorly received by, I think, more or less Westerners because it didn't really
Right.
like keep up with how Z was. And then, Akira Toriyama
And yet,
watching.
watching Daima, I had a very GT kind of feel about it, you know?
Yeah.
I
Well,
kind of felt like
kind
I was
of
going there.
it was kind of Akira Toriyama's version of GT in a way. It was his way of canonizing it. And
Right.
the whole reason why even Super and Daima exist is because of us Westerners deciding to make a Dragon Ball movie that is the worst piece of garbage on the planet. But then
Yeah.
again, I'm also thankful for it because we did get more Dragon Ball because of it. But then at the same time, it goes back to this whole inconsistency thing. Akira Toriyama got the whole, I want to go back to it. But then again, he's had so many projects. He's forgetful already as it is, writing new stuff. like, "Oh, this is an interesting concept. Let's kinda do it this way," but then again, what did I really say in the beginning? A lot of it kinda contradicts it with the whole Saiyan planet Vegeta getting destroyed, and then we
Yeah,
find out it was really Beerus who commanded Frieza to do it because he had a dream about a Super Saiyan god, and then we find out that Frieza did know about Boo and Beerus. We were all led to believe that Frieza's the ultimate power in the universe, when in fact he's not.
right. But I mean, to an extent, it makes sense because he would push that kind of fear mongering information out there. Hey, I am the strongest kind of
Yeah.
nonsense.
Which in a headcanon space, yeah, maybe Frieza himself knew that Beerus, the god of destruction, was the strongest being ever, but then again, Beerus wouldn't really interject with his will on things unless he had to. So,
Right, and then
therefore,
let's not
Frieza
forget
wouldn't be scared.
but right, and Beerus would also, like, sleep for
Yeah.
centuries.
And Boo
So,
himself was sealed up, so maybe Frieza knew that he was sealed up, but then again, they don't say that. They just said, "If you run into Boo, don't fight him," kinda thing. But then
yeah.
again, it just kinda makes you wonder if Frieza knew about Boo, why would he be gloating that he's the strongest?
Yeah, no,
That
that's there's a lot to say about Frieza, though, with his general demeanor, and he's very headstrong. Just because he may have been warned about Boo doesn't mean it's something that he really believes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he'd be right to fear Beerus, though. But there's also a argument to be made that, oh, he knows that Beerus is on one of his giant naps, that he can say whatever the heck he wants at this point.
Yeah. Which is true. But then again, it also comes down to, the timing of when we meet Beerus and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, Beerus was in the shadows, but then again, we've had this whole narrative restructured several times on how planet Vegeta was destroyed. King Kai says it was a meteor. Raditz, I think, said it was a meteor. And then we find out from Vegeta that Frieza was the one that destroyed it. And then later on,
Right.
we found out Frieza destroyed it because Beerus told him to. And then the whole thing with Bardock, and yes, the special was made by Toei. It wasn't made by Toriyama, but he gave notes after watching it. He even incorporated Bardock into the manga and a few panels based off of how Bardock looked in the special. So that version of Bardock was canon, but then when he brings him back in the Broly movie, he kind of rewrites how Frieza came to destroy planet Vegeta, how Bardock was as a person, how old Goku even was when he came to Earth. It kind of just made it all for nothing what we watched before, and that's why I feel like it Dragon Ball has gotten so big to the point where as much as I hate the idea, I also like the idea of just doing a whole brand reboot. Yes, we could keep this whole thing going that we have, which I'd be fine with, but it would be cool to maybe have a side reboot to where it's more of a Kai version, to where it's one cohesive story. Like even with Dragon Ball, like I said, I don't know if the Dragon Ball anime follows the manga to a T or if there's any filler in Dragon Ball. It's been so long since I've seen it because you can't watch it anywhere to physically own. You have to watch it on, I think, Crunchyroll only. And even then, it is necessarily not in the best visual state as it could be if it was remastered. And I think maybe the reason why Funimation and Toei haven't gone and done that is because Dragon Ball is the less popular version
Right.
of the Dragon Ball franchise,
It
period.
could be that. It could also be that they are planning something, though.
I mean, possibly. It would be nice. Like I said, it
Right.
would be cool if they maybe even continued the tradition. But then again, at this point, because we've had Dragon Ball Z Kai, they incorporated the Bardock special into the whole Kai universe. So we have that version of Bardock from the special at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z Kai. So if they go back into Super, we now have contradicting Broly, Bardock, Goku
Right.
kind of thing going on. Unless they're going to do what they've done with the past couple movies to where they incorporate it into the anime and restructure that whole arc to make it look more like
Right.
that version of Bardock, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that they're just gonna keep pushing on, which, like I said, is fine, but I think we're at the point where Dragon Ball is so big, it is essentially the anime equivalent to Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely there. The problem with it also is the whole multiverse nonsense. We
Correct.
know there's many different universes, many different versions of each of the characters, because then you can even go into, oh, well, that Bardock story did happen, but it happened in this universe, or blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I get your pain. We want to know the main universe, Universe 7.
Yeah, and that goes with Toyotaro. He did a interview recently about Daima, and then he's talking about what's canon, and he says, "Well, technically, it's all canon. The movies are canon; they're just in their separate universe. The games are canon. Even
Oh,
Kai,
such a cheap answer, isn't it?
even Kai is canon. It's in his separate universe, and it's just like that's the cheap answer, right?
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to deal with it. Is just say it's all canon. Everybody can be happy, but I'm not exactly happy with that. Like, I want a definitive Dragon Ball
Right,
timeline.
experience. Yeah,
Yes. That's why I think it is about time we get a reboot. Not necessarily a reboot where, you know, rewrite everything as a whole and it's
right.
like
You could just, yeah, just take everything that's existing, throw it all together, and remove all inconsistencies, and just
exactly.
have one solid explanation for a single thing. There are a couple of things I don't mind staying, is like, when Frieza says things, they could be kind of indicated like he's lying. Like when
Okay.
he talks about the destruction of, Planet Vegeta or this, that, and the other, because sometimes it's motivating to the scene.
Yeah.
Um, so there's certain points that you could use the previously set ones. Um, as far as King Kai's explanation for the destruction of the planet Vegeta, it still kind of works because he says a god
The Saiyan
destroyed it.
God.
Yeah, the Saiyan god. It could be cleaned up a bit, but does King Kai really know about Virus?
At that time, I mean, I think it's pretty clear he does know about Beerus, but I don't know if he knows Beerus did it. But you would think he would know because
Right.
he's a
He's the
Kai.
god of destruction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
and
just just putting two and two together, right? Um so yeah, it's something that can be cleaned up because his was way off. And he said there was only four Saiyans to
yeah,
survive.
Goku, Raditz, Nappa, and Vegeta. But what about Broly? What about
Exactly.
Paragus? Even there was another Saiyan that survived that Paragus killed. And then we have the, also kind of canon things. We have Vegeta's brother Tarble, which was only in, what was it, Yosun, Goku, and his friends return, I think, which was also taking place after the Buu saga, like a year later. And two Ginyu Force rejects, Avocado, show up, and then they fuse and make avocado or whatever.
Right.
And so you have that there too, and obviously yes, Tarble was mentioned in Super later on or whatever, but still there's just so much that has happened to where it needs to be cleaned up. It would also be nice to see a singular kind of animation style throughout the whole thing. Yes,
Right.
animation style has changed over the years, but at this point there's only so much you can change, and it would be nice to maybe streamline everything into one coherent story and animation style. Honestly, I prefer the original Dragon Ball Z animation style, but I know people prefer to do art digitally now on computers, draw it on
It is
computers.
easier, and this would be one hell of a task to put everything
Yes.
together. So I feel like it would be done digitally if it were to be done at all.
I mean, if
Um,
they do that, it would be nice if they did the animation at least to the level of the tournament arc with Jiren and
right.
Vegeta, 17, Goku, Frieza. That animation right there towards the end was peak super animation. We need that consistent. Granted,
Yeah.
it can't always be like that because
Money.
and I know
Yeah.
money, you got to
Time,
you got to
everything.
cut corners sometimes to get stuff
Yeah.
done on time. And you can always go back later on for the DVD or, you know, digital release, which
Yeah,
they
and
have
here's the
done
thing though.
before.
Who's to say they were to do this? Change, get everything all changed into one cohesive story and then retcon something again in the
Yeah.
future.
I mean, who's to say they won't? Either way, it's all canon. It's
Yeah, it's
all
all
canon.
canon.
But it would just be nice. We have everything
So
that's out now, just do it a separate
if
timeline.
it
Just do
is
it.
all canon, how do they fit GT in all of this?
I don't know. It could still happen after Super, but still makes no sense based off of
Right,
what we're going on right now. And I do not think they should lead into it. I think they should just leave it as an alternate timeline. We even got Dragon Ball Superheroes or whatever, that side universe anime in itself, like 5-minute episodes, which were cool. They just gave everybody fan service. We got Golden Cooler. We got this other Saiyan, I can't remember his name, that he's a big dude, kind of looks like Raditz. And then we had Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan Blue Goku fighting each other. It was just a giant what if thing. That's what Dragon Ball Heroes was.
right,
That's what I'm getting at, folks. We got our little sandbox there to play in, but Dragon Ball needs to hone it in.
right.
And
But no, I get what you're trying to say, and I feel like a lot of fans have been calling for that for a long time. And while there's a lot of people willing to throw money at it, it becomes one of those, is it worth putting all that time and all that money into the development of it, knowing that they're going to have to start with Dragon Ball and maybe not earn as much money? Because a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll just wait until they do Z and then buy it. And then they don't have the money to make Z and that kind of thing. So there's like a lot that would have to be
yeah,
perfect between them getting it right and then everyone actually wanting to buy into it, just get the ball rolling so that they can continue to make it all the way through.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it would ever happen. That's the
Yeah.
reality. I don't think it would. As much as I want it to happen, I don't think it ever would, but there is a possibility. We're in a world now where reboots happen on a daily basis. Let's be honest. And at the end of the day, Dragon Ball itself is kind of almost rebooted itself if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think
G-
that's also the beauty of what they're doing is that they can reboot things by continuing forward.
yeah, because
It's kind of a
technically
unique ability that they have.
technically they rebooted it by pretending at the time that GT didn't happen. Super happens. But then we're getting so far into Super, and then we have Daima that now Super Saiyan 4 is canon. But the issue we're having is why hasn't Goku used Super Saiyan 4
Right.
in Dragon Ball Super? And he says in Dragon Ball Daima, he's like, yeah, I could do this at any time. And then Vegeta went Super Saiyan 3 finally. But going back to the whole fan service thing, Daima was almost just a whole fan service saga in itself.
Right.
So, was it really needed? No, it was not needed. It's just another issue I have with Dragon Ball right now. A lot of stuff that has been going on has not been needed.
That's true. I do want to get back to more Super though.
I mean, it's being animated. It's got to be at this point. It's just, I read a thing. If Dragon Ball ceased to exist, if Japan stopped making Dragon Ball anything, the whole economy will collapse. Because for some reason, Dragon Ball is Japan's economy now. I don't know why.
I wouldn't say just Dragon Ball, but it is a huge part of it. I know Pokemon is a huge part of it too.
Yes. You get rid of those two things, Japan is done. And don't get me
Yeah.
started on Pokemon because I mean that could be a topic for another day. But uh
Yeah.
the other issue with Dragon Ball right now too is power levels. It's not necessarily right now, but it's been that, we've moved away from that. But that was one of the fun things that I liked about it. Like, oh, this
Yeah.
person got to hear, especially with someone that played the
It's
old
during that time, you were able to pinpoint exactly how much power was added to a form. You could scale things and really grasp the power that was attained. You really can't do that anymore.
I
We
know,
wouldn't
and
even be able to say it.
it's 10 quad quintillion thingy, I don't know.
Right?
I mean, yes, I get that's part of the reason why Akira Toriyama got rid of it, just because at a certain point it's gonna get so out there that you can't even say the number, which I get that. But it was also cool to other than someone saying, "Wow, he's really powerful." Well, how powerful is he? Like they
Right. No,
kind
I get it because the scaling was to a point where you could really see the difference
I mean
in any change.
the simple answer technically was kind of given to us in the Boo Saga, because the Boo Saga did have a power level thing, and it was only for like one episode. I think Babidi said, "Oh, it's over 20 Keely." They use like a Keely thing
Yeah,
instead, which you could technically use that instead to where maybe 1 Keely is the equal power of a million or something like that. You could do that
sure.
to like
Yeah.
change things up.
No,
So you
that is true, and, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Maybe that was Akira Toriyama's way of saying, um, "Maybe I could get back into this. Maybe I could bring this all back." And then, he was probably ousted by the other creatives on board going,
yeah,
"No, let's not do this anymore. It
yeah, so
kills us. It restricts us."
which is true. It is a restricting factor too, because then you have to be like, well, how much stronger is this guy gonna be? How is that? I don't know. But the thing that kind of is against Dragon Ball too, which is or Dragon Ball Z and Super and all that, which I liked about Dragon Ball, which Super kind of gets back to it a little bit, is that Dragon Ball itself was about technique and skill over
Right.
power levels and who can be over a
Who can
million and stuff
outsmart
like
the
that.
opponent sometimes instead
Yeah.
of just overpower.
Yeah, it was more martial arts tournament kind of stuff, based on skill, where Z just goes raw power. And a little bit of skill, more raw power. I feel like Super was almost that happy medium where they had, the power and the skill kind of characters like Hit. His ability was what made him cool. It was like time
Right.
skipping and stuff like that. So, you know, that is one good thing I liked about Super. But as far as the power scaling and stuff like that goes, that's one thing I would like to see return, but it'd have to be done in like a crafty way. That is one thing I miss, especially coming from someone who used to play the old Dragon Ball Z Score and Panini card games. It was fun to actually have your character. They had a power level and you could duke it out, and it just felt like you were in the show. It was a shame that Bandai kind of put the axe on that, but it is what it is. Maybe it'll make another comeback for a third time. I doubt it, but like I said, we're in the realm of reboots, and I don't
Oh,
know
I
what.
really hope that they don't go rebooting the live action movie though. Or if they do, I hope that it has to be approved.
Yes, it would have to be like how the Mario movie was kind of
Right.
approved and oversaw by Nintendo kind of thing, which would be neat. But in my opinion,
It's
Dragon Ball,
unnecessary.
yeah, Dragon Ball cannot work in live action. I've thought about it. I've mulled this over a lot. It just would be too goofy. If you were to compare that to like a Street Fighter type of thing, I think Street Fighter could work more as a live action, even though we have a new one coming out, which I don't think is going to be good. But I reserve that take until I see the movie, which I will see the movie.
Right.
Um, but as far as Dragon Ball goes, it's just so intricate and so out there. It really can't work in live action. Now, I'm willing to be proved wrong, because I myself would like to think I can make it work, but
Right.
could I? I don't know. Um,
There's always someone who can. It's like how we really didn't think the comic-y look could really come to life in Marvel, and then James Gunn brought us Guardians of the Galaxy and
yeah,
made the goofy not goofy. So there's always someone out there with that ability to look at something and go, "I can turn this around," and still
yeah.
keep its roots. So live action though, we're a long way from that.
Also, like you were kind of getting at to earlier, the whole time travel thing with Trunks. It was cool at the time, but I feel like Super kind of overdid it, and I feel like Future Trunks, he's actually my favorite character next to Vegeta. But when he came in Z and just took Frieza out like he was just a piece of butter, awesome. But bringing
Yeah,
him back,
no, they are definitely missing those kinds of scenes. The drastic difference in power level, you know, with the allies. Back then, you had a lot of allies show up and suddenly they're super powerful. It wasn't always Goku. I feel
yeah,
like it's always Goku now and
yeah.
Vegeta.
And that's the next problem I have with it. Humans, there's no point in them. Yeah, they tried to kind of bring the humans back in the Tournament of Power. Roshi was in it. But my opinion is like, them coming into that made no sense. It really
Yeah,
did
no,
not
it didn't.
whatsoever. They tried to give them time in the light again, but it really made no sense, and that goes
Unless
to another
yeah,
continuity error.
unless they come up with some kind of superhuman where, I don't know, Krillin, I feel like, will be the closest to it.
Yeah, Krillin and
Um,
Tien, really.
yeah, like, if they found that there was an unlockable power level for humans to transform, that would
Which
put a change on a lot of things, but I don't think they're ever gonna
which
go there.
technically kind of Tien has that. He has the third eye. He's
Well, that's
kind
his
of that
chakra.
level. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's kinda like the awakening of the human
Because,
inner
I mean, we
spirit.
do have humans with magic. Master
Yeah.
Roshi's sister is a witch. You know, you could always claim that magic could get more powerful or whatever. But
True, but I feel like the human characters have been put to the wayside over really the Saiyans, which we need to get back to the humans, which I think it would be cool just to have an arc where the Saiyans aren't around and the humans got to do the job. That would be something cool to explore and different, and in my opinion, bring new life to it. We're not seeing the same Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Trunks. Which one of these four people are going to save the day? And Piccolo. I almost forgot Piccolo, but even Piccolo, for a while there, he was just getting kind of wasted until,
yes, he
the
was.
superhero movie when he finally gets a new form, which is awesome and makes use of being giant again, which was really cool. And the other issue is reusing all the old villains. Bringing Frieza back in Super, in my opinion, was almost like a last ditch effort to
Right.
try and like,
Yeah. One of those that was just one of those things that I have issue with is like they have a lot of the movie villains that they
yeah,
never bring back in because BoJack was awesome. Bringing him and his crew officially into the franchise would have been awesome. Um, you know, they can pick and choose or even edit, you know, they can take something existing but then change it if they make the rules. It's
yeah.
not a big deal,
Which I
you
will
know.
say, bringing Brawly back different and making him canon, that worked.
Yeah,
Now, granted, the whole, Bardock story rewrite thing necessarily didn't do that for me, but the
right.
Brawly character rewrite worked. The other issue, like you were saying, I think Super fumbled the ball with bringing Frieza back. They should have just brought in Cooler in his place.
Yeah, again, it's a movie tie-in, and then we can have, you know, official storyline, and you know, they could have still brought Freezer back, but more as a reaction to Cooler.
I think that
Right.
would have been more interesting, and you have like a brother rivalry between the two. That would be pretty cool. Where maybe it gets to a point where they're fighting each other for who is the most powerful being in
Yeah.
the universe. Cooler maybe just originally sought out to bring his brother back because he just cares about his family. And the last issue that I have, which isn't really an inconsistency issue, but I feel like it's an issue that hasn't been delved into, is King Cold himself.
Yeah.
Everybody says that King Cold doesn't have any transformations. The form we see him in is the form, but I kind of beg to differ. I think he at least has one transformation. I'm saying that because of the fact of how Frieza's natural state, which is his final form, is what he looks like. And this is also proven with Frost's character in Super. He looks just like Frieza in his final form. I
Yeah,
feel like
that's an inconsistency I have issues with too, because it's like they have the same biology.
yeah,
Why would it be different? It's like saying, you know, every time someone goes Super Saiyan, depending on who it is, it's just completely different.
yeah. And I feel like King Cold actually probably does have one transformation. Doesn't mean he's gonna be as powerful as Frieza. Because reality, I think King Cold's power level compared to, Frieza and Namek in his final form is probably about an eighth of that power in King Cold's state there. So I would think if King Cold did have a transformation to look like his son and Cooler, he would in fact look more like them, but his power level would probably be double. Maybe a compared to Frieza, maybe it's 2/8 of what Frieza's power is. I don't know.
Sure.
But I feel like that's something there. Yeah, people go back and say, "Oh yeah, but Chilled in that Bardock Super Saiyan special, he looked like Frieza in his first form, where he was, suppressing his power a lot." I'm like, well, that could
Right.
also be the fact that he was suppressing his power. It doesn't mean he was much stronger, but It just makes no sense. Inconsistencies.
Yeah.
That was also a special, which technically wasn't canon, but everything's canon. So that's the end of my gripe. You pretty much know where I stand. I know in my heart Dragon Ball really does need a reboot just for consistency's sake, but relatively it doesn't at all. I would like
Right.
that, but I am fine if we just keep going and maybe
It
can
would
somehow
just be
explain it
nice to
later
get
on.
an HD Dragon Ball
Yes.
released.
Yes. Do a Dragon Ball Kai. I don't care. Just give
Right?
us that. Or like you said, just give us like an HD Dragon Ball. Um, I've been talking a lot, Chris. Is there anything you want to add to this? Because we're
No,
getting
I
kind
mean,
of
I agree with you. It would be nice to go to the store and get the all-in-one,
yeah,
where the animation is consistent all the way through, the stories are consistent all the way through, unless someone's lying about something. And maybe eventually it will happen when they're long and done with the series and trying to make a buck off of it.
yeah. They're
Uh,
just like we got nothing left. Reboot.
but I feel like that's a long ways away. We won't be watching it. It will be generations under us.
Yes, but like I said, I do feel like Dragon Ball is, and it's funny to think this, but this is my opinion. I do think Dragon Ball, the series itself, is the anime Star Wars. It's just made, at least for me, as big of an impact on me
Yeah.
as Star Wars has.
Yeah, no, it's definitely up there. I mean, between the huge, expansive lore, different alien races, it's Star Wars to an
Extent.
extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, I that's pretty much all I got. If you have anything else you want to add, now's the time, Chris. Otherwise,
No, no, I think we're right on the money there. I mean, I love the Dragon Ball franchise. I have been watching it since I don't know, I was maybe 10. And honestly, I'm always just looking forward. I'm looking to see what's coming next. And for a long time there was nothing.
yeah,
So I am happy with what we're getting. We're
same
getting
here.
a large amount of content as comparison to what
Yes.
we were getting.
And it's nice that we're getting decent games. It's nice that we're getting
Yeah, the
respectful.
games are coming out like crazy too when you really think about it. It's been a blessing for Dragon Ball
Yeah,
fans everywhere to
yeah,
constantly be getting something.
yes. And the fact that it's not all horrible like Star Wars. um Not granted Dragon Ball like we just talked about has its issues. I am
Yeah,
glad.
manga issues.
Yeah. But in the end, I'm grateful that they are being respectful and continuing it the best that they can now that Akira has passed away. I look forward to the future. I want to collect all 7 Dragon Balls and wish that we get a reboot that's more
All
coherent.
7 or all 3? I mean, you never know anymore.
Yeah, there's so many different Dragon Balls out there. Anybody can make a wish.
But
What's your
is
wish?
there ever going to be just a pair of Dragon Balls? I
I
guess
th-
we'd have to ask Shenron.
yes, we could ask him.
And with that, we are out of time. Uh, but yeah, we are huge fans of the Dragon Ball franchise. So whether this were to ever happen or not, it doesn't matter. We have such a great run with Dragon Ball, and we have more to come. So let's just hold on to what we've got. Maybe hope for some better things in the future, unlike Star Wars. Uh, so if you don't know us, we're Plot Hole Productions. You can catch us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. We're always trying to bring you guys something new. So subscribe, like, and keep up to date with everything that's coming out. Uh, and is there anything else you want to add before we close up?
Yeah, Chris, you forgot the most important thing.
What's the most important thing?
I'm your host, Nate Slater,
And I'm Chris Sandberg, and we'll catch you
in the
in the void.
void.